All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, got to give a big shout out to the sponsors here, Sovereign Extracts. You can check them out for CBD oils, a variety of THC, CBD, as well as hybrid cartridges. And check out USG Canada. They're putting out great apparel for boxers, MMA fighters, and for fans alike. And got a big guest on today's show. Picked up a big victory at UFC Fight Night, which went down on September the 19th. Tyson Nam stopping Jerome Rivera. And I've got Tyson Nam on the program right now. How's your day going so far, Tyson?
It's doing good. The sun is out and just enjoying life.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what were you getting up to? Like after the post fight there, like just is this a general like post fight celebration kind of thing? Just get out there and kind of like have some perspective on things and kind of get out there in nature.
Yeah, well, I mean, like right now, out in Hawaii, we have a second lockdown that the governor put us on. So I'm just chilling out at home. It's not like I can actually go out since we have a 14-day quarantine as well when we get down here in Hawaii. But even from the backyard of my house, I mean, the sun is out. I'm just enjoying the fresh air.
Yeah, and it seems like you're in a great position all around. Like it seemed like just a relatively short time ago, like even earlier in the summer, like you had this perception that you were fighting for your job, but now you've got these great back-to-back victories put together. Can you characterize just where you're at now and just like the arc that you went through going through all that? Because it's like the place that you're in now is quite amazing.
Yeah, it was almost heartbreaking after my second loss, which I don't feel like I lost that fight, but any which way, on top of paper, when you're going down 0-2, you're kind of thinking that any moment now you're gonna get a call that you won't be fighting for the UFC. But once they gave me a contract for a third fight, I was feeling very blessed, and the pandemic hit, and all I could do was actually train just full time, and I feel like that is the winning recipe for me to be winning these UFC fights. Just don't work and just train every day.
Was your training affected at any point during any of the COVID stuff? Like, I mean, I imagine things you've probably navigated a little bit better now, but was it ever impeded at any point because of the pandemic considerations?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just we didn't really know what the laws were of, like, can we train with people? Where do we have to train? Or things of that sort. But I mean, after a couple of weeks, we're all just bored, and all of my teammates. I mean, we're staying home. We're not going out and about. We're not coming into contact with strangers. Like, we can get close and in contact with each other just because we haven't been out and about to where any of us are worried about catching the virus. But yeah, even during this pandemic, I was still able to train like how we normally train with the partners that I needed to train with. So it was all good.
Yeah, and to the point of those partners, like who were you working with ahead of this particular fight here?
Well, in my corner, I had my training partners, Ian Delaquest and Russell Doan, and our head coach, Charles Capili. So, and especially when Matt Schnell had to drop out of the fight, it was lucky. I was really lucky for those guys that we all sat down. We was watching video on Jerome Rivera, like what I should be doing, what his tendencies were, and I think just putting all of our minds and our expertise together, we came out with a pretty good game plan.
Yeah, and that was an interesting note too. Like it seemed like you're largely unfazed by the opponent switch and whatnot. Is a lot of like your mentality centered around just kind of focusing on galvanizing your own efforts and everything's kind of fine opponents wise, or was there some level of nervousness like when you figured out there's going to be a bit of a switch with the opponent there?
I've been doing this professionally for about 14 years now, so there's not going to be a lot of techniques that I have not already seen, even though this sport is evolving by the second. But I feel like I have enough experience, enough fights under my belt that I can put together a game plan within a day or two against any opponent that they put up in front of me.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great point because you've been through so much throughout your career. Like I remember interviewing you for a college radio show I had at the time. It was just after you'd got that victory over Eduardo Dantes, and you really like shot yourself into a lot of other people's radars and stuff like that. But you've obviously developed a wealth of experience even since then, and it seems like you're hitting like the best stride of your career so far. Like, what do you credit to all of that? Like, has all of this just been like a compounding sort of journey where you've learned a tremendous amount of lessons all throughout each kind of step in the journey?
Well, I live by the rule of the 10,000 rep rule, or 10 years. So after 10,000 reps or 10 years, you actually master that skill. And it's been a little bit over 10 years. So if I have not been able to get good at this trait, damn, I've been wasting my time. But I do contribute it to just living professionally, inside and outside of the cage. You know, I work out every day, even though I don't have a fight. I try to eat as healthy as possible so that my weight doesn't get out of hand. And you know, when fight time comes, you know, I'm all business. You know, there's no messing around. So just living a little bit more disciplined than your average Joe, I feel like has really prolonged my career, and I feel at this age that I'm finally I'm actually hitting my peak now instead of actually going downhill for some odd reason.
Yeah, and I kind of had that read as well, which is why I thought to ask, because it seems like you're at that point in the career that a lot of fighters like to get at, where there's like the high fight IQ by virtue of like all the experience you have, but also like all of the athletic tools are still there and firing off. Is that a fair characterization? Like, do you kind of feel you're in that pocket right now?
Oh yeah. Now that you mentioned that, so I would like to say that it's, if you can preserve your body till when you hit your man strength. They usually say like around your early to mid 30s, right, is when you hit that man strength, that peak. But usually by the time that a lot of athletes get to that stage, their body is already all broken down from previous years of whether it's sports or just life in general. But when I actually look at it, like a majority of my friends that do MMA, they wrestled growing up, which I didn't do just because basketball was the first love of my life. And I mean, everybody knows that, you know, if you wrestle, you're coming out with a broken body, you know, knees, shoulders, back, neck is all just jacked up after literally just a high school career, let alone if you went on to college and kept on with it. So for myself, I feel like I'm very fortunate that, well, not fortunate, but I did not wrestle, so I did not sustain all those types of bodily injuries that you would if you wrestled on a day-to-day basis for however many years. And I'm even more blessed that I'm at this age with all of this knowledge and experience. But I feel like my body's actually works just as good as any of these mid 20-year-olds.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, the damage wrestling can do on one's body is definitely noticeable for sure. But I'm noticing in the past couple fights here, like, I mean, in the last one, you had a bantamweight outing, and the one prior to that was flyweight. Like, from what I can tell, it seems like you'd probably want to have the path at flyweight, like in terms of working the way up the contendership hierarchy, and then maybe fight at bantamweight if the matchup is right. Is that a fair characterization of where you're at, or do you kind of want to compete in both divisions? Like, where are you at with all of that?
No. I'm a flyweight. I do my best work at flyweight. It was just unfortunate that these past two fights was short notice for my opponents, which were actually flyweights. But with that short notice, yeah, they won't be able to make that flyweight mark. So that's why we had that catch weight at bantamweight instead. But yeah, I'm a flyweight. I'm not trying to compete with these full-fledged bantamweights just because, you know, fight night comes when you're outweighed by about 10, 15 pounds, that's a huge advantage toward their side. But for myself, since I'm a bigger flyweight, fight night comes, I'm usually the bigger of the opponents, the heavier, the stronger, which I always feel is a mental edge, in at least in my mind and the way that I fight. But yeah, flyweight is where I'm at.
Yeah, and it seems like the division is looking like it's in great shape as of late. Like that Garbrandt Figueiredo title fight coming up. There's a lot of great contenders out there all around. Like, what are your thoughts on the present state of 125 pounds? Because it seems like there's a lot of exciting components to it.
Fire. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
every time a flyweight bout happens, man, it's just a scorcher whenever you're seeing them. They're flying around, they're punching, they're kicking, they're jumping at each other, they're throwing up submissions, scrambling on the ground. I mean, to me, it's one of the, or if not the most exciting weight classes because these guys don't get tired, and it's action from start to finish. But yeah, especially with big names like Cody Garbrandt coming in and putting the flyweight division on top of the map, with the star power that he has. I mean, it's great all the way from top to bottom, champion all the way through number 15. You will not find a slouch up in there.
Absolutely. And to that point of like the flyweight contendership hierarchy, it seemed like a fight that was on your radar was a fight with Joseph Benavidez there. And it seemed like very informed by just like admiring his abilities as a martial artist and just what that kind of matchup would look like there. So can you kind of talk about the Joseph Benavidez fight there and just like why you mentioned that matchup in particular?
Yeah, if you're not a fan of Joseph Benavidez, you're probably not a fan of MMA. He's been doing it for so long, and in every promotion that he's fought in, he was like top five for well over a decade, no matter what weight class, what promotion that he was fighting in. But even what more intrigued me was that, well, he didn't have any fight scheduled. We share a common opponent by the Ali Bagutinov. We're similar in age, and I cannot see a moment in the fight to where people will not be yelling and screaming because it's just so damn exciting between the both of us.
Oh, absolutely. When I'd seen that headline kind of circulating around a bit, I started thinking and I'm like, yeah, that would be fight of the night. That's like a performance of the night bonus for sure, in my estimation.
Yeah, someone is definitely getting finished during that fight. I mean, Joseph, he's not a runner. He's a fighter. He's always pushing to finish fights, and I mean, it ain't no surprise what I like to do. I just like to punch people's heads off.
Yeah, and I mean, great that you mentioned that Bagutinov fight there and just the commonality of that. I remember, just the literal last second nature of that, and I think that in and of itself also kind of underscores the exciting style that you bring to the table and everything like that. But I mean, to the prior point, like I was saying, if like now you got a couple wins to your credit, like the status is a little more locked down in the UFC, does that lend itself to like a level of, I guess, comfortability that leads to like flow state when you're out there competing, or does that dynamic not pop up quite as much?
I'm never comfortable. Up. I mean, as a mixed martial artist, you should never feel comfortable just because you're always going out there and you're actually putting yourself in danger. In danger, not against physically harm, but for your job. I mean, because I feel like you as a fighter are always expendable. You're only as good as your last fight, and you put together one or two boring fights. I mean, you walk out with a pink slip. But for myself, I'm never satisfied with whatever I'm doing. I'm always trying to be better than the previous day, and especially now that I'm competing with the best in the world in the greatest promotion in the world. I'm never satisfied.
Yeah, I guess I just meant in as far as like when you're out there in the cage and then you're in that flow state whereby you're just authentically expressing yourself and you can almost see the moves coming before they pop up kind of thing. I guess I more so meant with that, not just like resting on laurels more so.
Gotcha. Yeah, whenever I'm out there, I almost like semi blackout once I actually start to walk out to that cage, to where I'm really not thinking about anything else but just putting a beat down up on my opponent that stands across me. It's a real it's a real surreal feeling of almost eeriness to where you don't really remember what happened for the past 15 minutes or however long you're up in that cage, but it's a real flowy state to where I'm pretty sure majority of fighters get in the so-called zone and just perform with whatever we've been practicing for the past week or all the way up to 8 weeks in general, preparing for it. So it's a real special feeling to experience that I don't feel a lot of people will ever experience in their lifetime. So mixed martial artists are athletes that separate athletes from athletes just from what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying in the sense of like what you're articulating. That's an interesting space to be locked into, and I mean, it's just great to get to talk to you a bit and get some time. I want to be mindful of the rest of the schedule today, though, and everything. Is there anything you want to add, kind of as a parting thought, as we're wrapping up here, Tyson?
Man, follow me up on top of social media, because right now I'm number 15, and I only feel like I'm going to be getting closer and closer to that number one spot, and eventually might lock heads with whoever champion is there when I am number one. So follow me up on Instagram, Namino11, Twitter, Tyson Nam. It's a wrap.
Yeah, people should definitely follow along, because I imagine you're going to be climbing up that hierarchy even further there. But I appreciate all the time and insights, Tyson. Pleasure to be able to talk to you after this big victory over Jerome Rivera here, and just you enjoy the rest of your day there, man.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks a lot, Dylan.